Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The conference room went quiet, just for a second, before the laughter exploded. Elena Hart stood tall in the center of the polished boardroom, resume in hand, while three well-dressed executives chuckled like she had just performed a comedy skit. The sleek table between them was cluttered with iced coffees, overpriced leather folders, and expressions of mockery. The head of marketing, a woman with crimson lipstick and designer heels, leaned forward and tapped a fingernail against the printed resume like she was knocking on a child's coloring book. Former waitress, GED, single mother. She arched a brow, looked around the room. She actually printed this? Another exec laughed. Honey, this isn't a soup kitchen, this is RDI. The third executive, the youngest of the trio, held up the paper and waved it like a white flag. Tell me this is a prank. Is this one of those YouTube social experiments? Elena didn't flinch. Her brown eyes, quiet but unwavering, scanned each of them one by one. No defense, no apology, no fake smile. Just calm. She had expected this. They had no idea who she was. Not, really. Victor Dalton, the grey-templed man at the head of the table and acting CEO, leaned back with a smug grin. He laced his fingers behind his head. Ms. Hart, he said, dragging out the syllables like he was speaking to a child. What made you think this resume was good enough for RDI Technologies? Elena tilted her head slightly, almost amused. I suppose I was curious to see how your company evaluates potential. Turns out, it's pretty predictable. Victor blinked. Before he could respond, the door opened. A junior assistant stepped in and whispered something in his ear. The blood drained from Victor's face. Without a word, he stood and exited the room. The other two executives followed, exchanging uneasy glances. Elena remained alone in the sunlit boardroom. She walked toward the massive glass window and stared out at the city skyline. Her fingers touched the edge of the resume, and for the first time that morning, she smiled. It had begun. 2 months earlier, the basement was cold, damp. It smelled, faintly of mildew and stale takeout. Elena sat hunched over a cracked laptop on a folding chair, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. The soft hum of a laundry machine echoed nearby. Upstairs, her sister was arguing with her boyfriend again. Her 12-year-old son, Liam, slept on the only mattress they had, a stained futon pushed against the corner wall. She glanced at him, her heart tugging. His shoes had holes in them. He never said a word about it, just walked with his socks bunched around his heels and a fake grin. She felt like she was failing him. No degree, no support, no stability. Every job application she submitted came back with the same empty rejection. Not a good fit at this time. And every night she'd stare at the resume she had carefully written, wondering why no one could see past the labels. Waitress, single mother, GED. But that wasn't the full story. That wasn't even half the story. Elena Hart had once been on track to graduate top of her class in economics. She'd turned down a scholarship to care for her mother during cancer treatments. Then she'd fallen in love, hard, with the man who promised her the world. He disappeared 3 years later, leaving her with a mountain of debt, a baby, and a legal mess that nearly crushed her. She rebuilt, slowly, quietly, studying at night, reading financial reports, learning the language of business, one YouTube video at a time. She waited tables, cleaned offices, stocked shelves, whatever it took to survive. She knew something most people didn't. Hardship makes you invisible until it makes you dangerous. One sleepless night, she scrolled her phone and saw a headline: RDI Technologies acquires Fincor in historic $300 million deal. She stopped breathing for a moment. RDI. Her ex-husband had interned there. He used to brag about it. This place will make me rich, he'd say. Real power lives at RDI. She had nodded back then, wiping formula off her shirt, smiling through exhaustion. Now she was staring at that same company, remembering every arrogant word he'd spoken about it. That night, something snapped inside her. She didn't want revenge. She wanted to own the system that people like her were locked out of. Research became obsession. Every free moment, between shifts, during Liam's soccer practice while waiting in food stamp lines, she researched RDI's structure, their acquisitions, their board members, their weaknesses, and she found it, a loophole. A majority of the company's shares were floating, vulnerable, disconnected, held quietly by disinterested stakeholders. She took a deep breath and made her first call, then the next, then dozens, more. She pitched her dream with a voice that never shook. Elena found 3 investors willing to bet on her vision. Women, all of them, who had been overlooked, burned, underestimated. They helped her form Heart Ventures LLC. Elena used every penny she had, sold her car, liquidated her small savings, pawned her wedding ring, borrowed against everything, and slowly, behind a curtain of shell companies and silent partners, she began to buy RDI technologies from the inside out, 1 share at a time. Now Victor Dalton paced his office, hands trembling. The email from the board was short, cold, and absolute. Effective immediately, Elena Hart is the new majority stakeholder in RDI Technologies. He sat down heavily. "She played us," he whispered. His assistant entered, pale as paper. "Sir, there's a call waiting from the bank about the ownership transfer." He waved her off. Victor felt something he hadn't felt in years. Panic. Who was this woman? How had she gotten through? Back in the interview room, the executives re-entered the room like ghosts. "Elena," Victor started, but she didn't let him finish. "It's Ms. Hart now," she said coolly, "and you're on my payroll as of this morning." Dead silence. She walked to the head of the table, his seat, and placed her resume there again. "I left this version of me for you to see how you'd treat her, and you did exactly what I expected." The woman in heels swallowed hard. "People like me don't get second chances," Elena said. "We take them." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and Victor," she added without turning. "Your performance review starts Monday. I'd prep your resignation." But just as Elena stepped into her new office, her phone buzzed, an anonymous message. "You shouldn't be here. You have no idea what you just inherited." A second message followed. A video. It showed the RDI server room, ablaze, and someone wearing a mask with a symbol she recognized. From her ex-husband's secret notebook, Elena Hart stared at the video on her phone again. The image was shaky, grainy, clearly recorded in a rush. But there was no mistaking the symbol spray-painted on the server room wall as the flames licked around it. A circle split by a jagged red line. She'd seen it once before, in her ex-husband Nathan's hidden notebook, back when he still lived, with her and Liam. Back when she thought love could fix things, the memory stabbed at her like ice. He'd once told her, laughing after too much whiskey, "If anything happens to me, follow the symbol. It's where the real money hides." She hadn't understood then. She thought he was just ranting. Now, 10 years later, she was the CEO of RDI Technologies, and that symbol was painted across a crime scene in her building. She tapped her intercom. "Danica," she said to her new assistant, "get me security, and pull the logs from last night, 2 hours earlier, 3:14. AMA masked figure moved through RDI's underground server floor like they'd done it 100 times before. They walked with purpose, no hesitation, swipe card, door click, disable. Camera. Inside, they poured accelerant in key server corners, pulled a USB from their pocket, inserted it into the backup system. Click, transfer, delete. Then came the match. They stood there watching it catch fire. Only then did they raise their phone and start recording, sending the footage directly to Elena's private number. Not onto the board, not to the press, to her, alone. Now, 8 in AMRDI's executive floor buzzed with chaos. Security rushed through the halls. A fire truck was parked outside. Whispers flew like daggers. But Eleanor, she sat calm, too calm. On the outside, at least inside, her stomach roiled with a storm of doubt and fire. She wasn't just fighting for survival now. Someone was declaring war. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was Danica again, her 24-year-old assistant, efficient, loyal, and sharp-eyed. "Ma'am," Danica said. "Security reviewed the tapes. Someone used a level 5 clearance badge to access the server floor." Elena narrowed her eyes. "Only 6 people have that level, right?" Danica nodded. "Including you." Elena stood. "Get me the full list and bring in Victor Dalton." Danica blinked. "You sure? He's not happy." "I'm not asking if he's happy. I'm asking you to bring him." Moments later, Victor entered her office like a man approaching his own execution. He looked older than he had yesterday, jaw clenched, eyes restless. "Ms. Hart," he said flatly, "I heard about the fire. Shame." She motioned for him to sit, but didn't wait for him to get comfortable. "One of 6 people used a level 5 badge to sabotage our servers. You're one of the 6. Victor exhaled a humorless laugh. "So, you're accusing me now?" "I'm asking if you want to confess before this gets out of my hands." He leaned forward. "Elena, I built this company. You don't just walk in here from the gutter and—" "I own this company," she interrupted. "And last night, someone tried to burn it down. You're either part of the solution or you're gone." Victor stared at her. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Anger, but also fear. "Check the logs," he muttered. "You'll find your answers." Then he left. That evening, Elena sat alone in the empty boardroom, the symbol from the video enlarged on her laptop screen. She'd pulled Nathan's old notebook from storage earlier, the one with water damage and scribbles from a paranoid man who used to whisper about deep code and black protocols. On page 9, drawn with shaky pen, was the exact same symbol. Underneath, scribbled in all caps, "Project Red Veil, do not trust anyone, even the ones who say they saved you." Elena leaned back in her chair. Nathan had been brilliant once. Too brilliant. His mind fractured under the weight of secrets. He couldn't say aloud. He'd vanished shortly after Liam turned 3. She assumed he'd left them. But now, maybe he hadn't. Maybe someone erased him. A new notification buzzed on her screen. "Encrypted file received. RDI Project Archive. redveillogs.zip. Sender. Unknown." She hesitated, then clicked. The file opened dozens of folders, each one labeled by year, going back to 2002. Inside, black budget experiments, hidden transactions, whistleblower reports, and one video clip only 4 seconds long. A woman's voice, desperate, whispering in the dark. "If you're seeing this, Red Veil has already breached top-level access. They're inside the company. This isn't about tech, it's about control." The video cut out. Eleanor stared at the screen, pulse hammering. Red Veil wasn't just a project. It was alive. And it was inside her company. Flashback. 9 years ago, Nathan paced the apartment like a caged animal. He hadn't shaved in days. His eyes darted to the windows, the door, the corners of the room. "They're listening," he said under his breath. Eleanor stood in the kitchen, tired and numb. Liam was crying in the next room. "Who's listening?" she asked. "RDI, not the public face, the real face." "You're not making sense." He grabbed her shoulders. "If something happens to me, don't go near them. Don't ever go near them." And then he was gone. Present, 11:30 p.m. Elena lay awake in her penthouse for the first time since taking over. Her son Liam was safe, asleep 2 floors below. She'd moved him and Danica into the tower with her until the investigation settled. She couldn't trust anyone outside her circle now. She stared at the city through glass windows. Somewhere out there, someone was watching her, trying to scare her, control her, or worse, take everything. But they had underestimated her. They thought she was just a poor woman with a shaky resume. They didn't know she'd crawled through hell to get here, and she wasn't afraid of fire anymore. Her phone lit up again. Another anonymous message. Red Veil lives inside your board. Then a list of 4 names. Victor Dalton, Sasha Reed, head of marketing, Tom Lang, CFO, and Danica Wells. Elena froze. Danica, her assistant, her only real ally. She read the message again, then once more. Was it true, or was someone trying to break her trust? The only thing she had left. She had to find out. Final scene, cliffhanger. The next morning, Elena entered RDI's executive lounge quietly. Danica was already there, sipping coffee. Rough night? Danica asked, smiling. Elena forced a calm nod. You could say that. She set a folder down on the table. What's this? Danica asked. The results of a silent security audit. Every badge used last night, every server accessed, every camera turned off. Danica opened the folder. Her face changed, but not with guilt, with fear. Who gave you this? I have eyes everywhere now, Elena replied. Danica looked up. Trembling, I need to tell you something, she whispered, about Nathan and what RDI really did to him. Elena's heart stopped. You knew him? Danica nodded slowly. He didn't leave you. They took him. Before Elena could speak, the lounge doors burst open. Security, guns drawn, everyone on the floor, CEO's orders. Elena stood in shock. I am the CEO, she shouted. But they weren't looking at her. They were looking at Danica. The head of security stepped forward. We found your prints on the server breach. Danica turned pale. No, I didn't. The guards grabbed her arms. Wait, Elena said. This doesn't make sense. Danica locked eyes with her as they pulled her away. They're using me, she cried. I didn't do this, but if you don't stop them now, they'll erase you too, just like they did to him. Then she was gone. Dragged down the hall. Elena stood frozen, the pieces spinning in her mind. Nothing was what it seemed, and now she was truly alone. Elena sat frozen in her glass-walled office, the door slowly closing after Danica's arrest. Her thoughts screamed, her assistant, her only real confidant, gone in cuffs. Danica's words echoed like a whisper from the grave. They're using me. I didn't do this. If you don't stop them now, they'll erase you too. Just like they did to him. Her stomach knotted. They had accused Danica too fast, too easily. And those names on the anonymous message, Victor, Sasha, Tom, Danica. What if Danica wasn't guilty, but bait, and worse? What if they wanted Elena to trust? No one at all. She opened the secure folder Danica dropped in panic during the arrest. Inside, a faded photograph. Nathan, alive. Standing beside Tom Lang, RDI's current CFO, both younger, in some sort of private underground lab. Dated 2014. Nathan had disappeared. In 2016, the timestamp didn't lie. He was with RDI 2 years before he vanished. Elena's hand trembled. The official story was that Nathan left because of stress, paranoia, and delusions. She'd even believed it at times, for her own peace. But this photo shattered that illusion. They'd lied, all of them. Later that night, Elena's penthouse rain struck the floor-to-ceiling windows like the city itself was trying to warn her. She stared out, holding a glass of untouched wine. It had been years since she cried. Now her body wouldn't. Let her. Danica was gone. Her board was a nest of snakes. Her ex-husband might have been silenced for knowing too much. And her only proof, the video files, had mysteriously vanished from her laptop mid-afternoon. Remote wiped. Someone inside had access. She paced. Her phone buzzed again. Blocked number. Message. You're asking the wrong question, Elena. It's not who took Nathan, it's who created Red Veil and why. Then another message followed. He's alive. You want answers? Come alone. 2 a.m., 47th and Lex. Underpass garage. Leave your phone. 2:03 am. Abandoned garage, 47th and Lex. The air was cold. The rain had stopped, but the city's hum sounded distant, muffled. Elena stepped into the garage. Her heart thundered like it was trying to escape her chest. A shadow stepped forward. At first she thought it was a trick of light, a cruel illusion. But then she saw the scar on the temple, the slight limp, the eyes. "Nathan," she choked. He nodded, haunted, older, leaner, worn. "Elena," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't have come." She took a step closer, staring. "You're alive." "I shouldn't be," he replied. "Not after what I saw." Tears burned in her throat. "You left us." "No, they took me." Red Veil is real, Elena. It started as a cybersecurity ghost protocol, but it evolved. He looked over his shoulder, scanning. They used our company as a front. RDI's board helped fund and protect it. The real leaders, they aren't in the public org chart. They're buried in layers of shell companies and silent shares. She clenched her fists. "You knew this, and you didn't come for Liam. For me, they told me if I tried, you both would die." Her eyes filled. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have fought harder." He pulled out a USB stick and pressed it into her hand. "That's every record I saved before they caught me. Names, projects, internal memos, including the plan to erase you once you reached CEO." Elena's hands shook. "What plan?" "They needed a scapegoat. You were perfect. Former homeless mother, no family, no legacy. You were never meant to win, Elena. You were meant to crash and burn and take the fall when Red Veil went public." Her mouth went dry. "They gave you power to destroy you. And now that you're waking up, they'll come for Liam next." A noise, a whisper of movement. Nathan froze. "Run!" But it was too late. The lights flared. 3 black SUVs roared into the garage. Men in masks poured out. Nathan grabbed her hand and pulled her behind a pillar. "Take the stick," he whispered. "Get to Renly. He's the only one who can decrypt." A bullet ricocheted nearby. He shoved her toward the side exit. "Go!" She ran, but before she looked back, she saw them tackle Nathan. Then nothing. Just screams. Then silence. Later, Eleanor's apartment, 5:30 a.m. She slammed the door shut behind her, breath heaving, soaked in sweat and fear. Liam ran in, confused. "Mom?" She held him tight. "Everything's okay," she whispered. "I promise." Danica's voice replayed in her head. "If you don't stop them now, they'll erase you too, just like they did to him. Except now. Nathan wasn't erased. He was bait, and she had taken it, but he had given her what they feared most. Truth. She opened the USB on a secure offline laptop. It booted into a custom operating system, heavily encrypted. Unreadable. Nathan's. Last words rang in her ears. "Get to Renly. He's the only one who can decrypt it." Flashback, and 5 years ago, she was temping as a receptionist for a startup. A young coder named Renly had once helped her reboot a corrupted server. Nerdy. Brilliant. Quiet. She'd bought him coffee in return. He'd said, "You're gonna run this place one day." She'd laughed. Now she needed him to save her life. Present day, 11 a.m. She met Renly at a quiet Brooklyn cafe. His hair was longer now. He still wore the same hoodie from 5 years ago. "Elena Hart," he said, smiling. "Wow. CEO of RDI. No time for pleasantries," she said, sliding over the USB. "Can you decrypt this?" He raised an eyebrow. "You know this thing's military grade, right?" "I know. And I know you're one of 3 people in New York who can open it." He looked at her, serious now. "You're in danger, aren't you?" She nodded. "Give me 24 hours. Back at RDI, 3 p.m. The board had called an emergency meeting. Victor, Sasha, and Tom sat at the long table, acting concerned. "We're under cyber attack," Sasha said. "Danica's betrayal has leaked into public sentiment. Our stocks are wobbling." Victor added, "Your leadership is under question, Elena. We may need to reconsider roles. She stared at them calmly. Inside, she raged. "I'll prepare a press statement," she said, standing. Sasha smiled politely. "Of course, transparency is key." Elena walked out, but her expression didn't waver, because she knew something they didn't. Tomorrow, the world would know too. Final scene. Cliffhanger, 11:59 a.m. The next day, Elena waited in her car outside the same cafe. Renly slid into the seat beside her, looking shaken. "I decrypted it," he said. "And you were right." He handed her a tablet. Her hands trembled as she swiped through secret recordings of board meetings discussing black budget deals, evidence of Red Veil's AI testing protocols on human subjects, financial trails that linked RDI to international shell firms and to her ex-husband's disappearance. An email dated 5 days before Nathan vanished. "Heart is unstable. His wife could be useful. If we build her up, we can collapse her when we need a distraction. Secure her background. Begin prep." She stared at the screen, then whispered, "They built me to burn." Renly looked at her, pale. "What are you going to do?" Elena turned, eyes full of steel. "I'm going to light the match first." 7:45 a.m. RDI Global Headquarters. Elena stood before the mirror in her office. No makeup, no designer heels, just her. A plain black blouse, hair pulled back. Behind her, chaos brewed. The media had caught wind of a major whistleblower drop tied to RDI. She didn't flinch. Everything she'd been through, poverty, mockery, betrayal, manipulation, had led to this moment. And now, she wasn't the desperate intern. She wasn't even the CEO. She was the reckoning. Her phone buzzed. Renly. "The files are uploaded. Countdown active. 90 minutes till full public release. Thousands of news outlets, social watchdogs, and legal authorities. No one can stop it now." She exhaled slowly. "Good," she said. "They burned everything I loved. Now they'll watch me rise from the ashes." 8:15 a.m. Boardroom of wolves. The entire board had gathered. Victor, Sasha, Tom, 8 others. Smug, concerned, whispering, but not yet panicked. Victor stood as Elena entered. "Elena, what is going on? Why are we hearing that confidential documents have been leaked?" Sasha added, "And why is Danica's name trending as a whistleblower?" "She's in custody." Tom narrowed his eyes. "What have you done?" Elena smiled politely and placed a small device on the table. "Let's have a conversation. Off the record, but very real." She pressed a button. The room dimmed. A projector activated, casting images onto the wall, hidden recordings of secret meetings, Red Veil's test subjects, the forged documents framing Danica, emails plotting Nathan's erasure, surveillance of Liam. A chilling phrase, "We built her to collapse. She's the perfect fall." The silence was electric. Victor stood abruptly. "You have no proof those are authentic." Elena clicked another file. Nathan's video testimony filled the screen. "They told me my family would die if I didn't disappear. I tried to expose them, but I was hunted. Elena doesn't know half of what they planned. She was their shield, their puppet, and when the time came, their scapegoat." Sasha went pale. Tom shouted, "Turn that off!" Elena did. Not because he asked, but because she was done playing games. "I've leaked everything," she said coldly. "It's already hitting press rooms and law enforcement servers as we speak." Victor's face darkened. "This will destroy the company." "No," Elena replied, voice unwavering. "It will destroy you. The company will survive, but you'll be remembered as traitors, criminals, and liars." Tom lunged at her, but security burst in and held him back. "Touch me," Eleanor whispered, "and the next drop will name every offshore bank you've ever touched, including the one funding Red Veil's live subjects in Paraguay." Tom's face crumbled. Victor fell into his seat, shaking. Sasha looked like she might faint. Elena turned. You underestimated me. All of you. You thought I was weak, that I was. Desperate enough to play your game. But I didn't come this far to be your tragedy. I came to rewrite the ending. She walked out. She didn't look back. 30M, press conference live stream. Hundreds of cameras flashed as Elena stood before a row of microphones. She didn't have notes. She didn't need them. I wasn't born into power, she began. I built myself from rejection, survival, and a child who believed I could be more than my past. Today, I'm not speaking as a CEO. I'm speaking as a woman who was manipulated, used, and nearly erased by the very people who claim to lead us. She let the silence settle. RDI's board has committed crimes, financial, ethical, and human. I've released the evidence. I am cooperating with global authorities, and I will continue to work with whistleblowers across all industries. This ends now. The room buzzed. One reporter shouted, "Are you resigning?" Elena looked directly into the lens. "No," she said. "I'm rebuilding, with real leaders, with people who know what it means to start from nothing, with survivors." Another. "Reporter, what do you say to the people who laughed at you when you applied here?" Elena's smile returned, this time different, unbreakable. "I say thank you," she replied, "because without your laughter, I'd never have learned how to roar." Days later, news coverage goes global. The Elena Hart leak trended in 57 countries. Danica was released, her record wiped. She appeared on interviews with tears in her eyes and truth on her lips. Nathan's safe house was revealed, but international protection was granted. He spoke to Liam over a secure video line. "I'm proud of your mom," he said. "She did what I couldn't." Victor, Sasha, and Tom were arrested at a private airport, fleeing with fake passports. They faced trial. Red Veil was shut down. Whistleblower protections were expanded globally. And Elena, she became more than a CEO. She became a symbol. Final scene. 1 year later, a quiet countryside. Green hills. A home surrounded by trees. Peace. Elena sat on the porch, sipping coffee. Liam chased butterflies across the lawn. Danica sat beside her, a tablet in hand. The new foundation's fully funded. We've got scholarship apps from 6 continents. Elena smiled. "Let's make space for all of them." Danica looked at her. "Do you ever think about what they did to you?" Elena was silent for a moment. Then she replied, "I think about what I did because of them." She watched Liam run, heard his laughter. She turned to Danica. "They built me to collapse, but instead I became their collapse. Sometimes the world tries to bury you not because you're weak, but because you're a seed." Elena was never meant to survive, and yet she bloomed into something no one could stop. Lesson. They gave her nothing. She built everything. And then she took back everything they stole.